I'm a game dev, or at least to begin. Did I mention this will be my first time releasing? That's how inexperienced I am. I've decided to willingly put myself in these characters. I know 2 months to you may not sound very painful to make this run the game with it. Well, hopefully not too much pain.
Well, that went less than ideal. Hey, welcome to my second devlog for my Ina-inspired game, which now has the name Limbless. The game has been released, and well, I've been pretty happy with it. The game has gotten comments, constructive criticism, and actually scored pretty well in most categories. Thank you so much to Eldritchsaxes for the music. You absolutely carried the audio score. Overall, everything's been pretty well. Well, besides the whole releasing the game part. I'm not stressed very often, which is a problem of mine. But this game, oh boy, it had me stressed. Let's start where all said stress began. Pug, I don't know what bread to give the old guy. Also, I need bread spinning GIF. Also, I'm finishing the last cutscene, but I still gotta add credits, which means I also need character names. We also have an hour and a half left.
We're gonna crash!
Okay, 90 minutes remaining. Just a final cutscene and credits. That's fine, that's doable. Coding the captions while Pirate Pug gets the bread GIF? Done. Turn on Pizza Tower tunes because it'll make you work faster? Scratch that, it's distracting you from putting the credits while the rest of the devs spam you names of characters? Done. Crediting all your work to the wrong person and not noticing it until after you release the game? Done. Wait, what? Uploading the game with 7 minutes remaining? Okay, great. Fill out the game page, go back to the jam to link the game, and be told there's no available games. 4 minutes remaining. Panic for the next 2 minutes and realize the game was automatically added. Announce the game has been released. Calm. Panic. Friends play the game and find out it cuts to credits halfway through. Realize I was editing the wrong cutscene script when coding the final cutscene.
Losing it.
Okay, this is a question that's got nothing to do with the current conversation. I just kind of want to ask it. Is Prismarine, like, resistant to TNT in any way?
Fix bug, fix credits, and play test this time. Release the game again an hour later. Calm. For real this time. Watch my friends play the game until several hours into the morning. Sleep. As you probably guessed, this is not how things are supposed to go. But that was pretty much the extent of my stress. Honestly, I didn't have much stress throughout the development. It was just that whole incident. Well, now that I've trauma dumped on y'all, why don't we answer some questions I got? First question. Have you lost weight since I last saw you? Yes, thanks for noticing. Why is it so dark in here? What? Geez, I asked you people for questions on, like, the game and stuff. What is this? Well, if you want, I'll turn on the lights. Yeah, so I'm kind of mid-construction of my house, and I didn't really want y'all to see that. So, there's the PC from the last devlog. That's cool. Why choose Godot? Because Unity made us walk the plank, and Unreal Engine scares me with that 115 gigabyte install size. Godot is very compact, lightweight, and it can pack everything into one neat exe file. So it's very convenient for both developers and users. Even the editor is a single file. Why enter game jams? I just wanted some sort of goal to set for the game. Without a deadline, I could either overdevelop the project or just never finish. Besides, I've been wanting to enter a game jam for a while now. Last time I tried, it was going to be for a Game Boy game jam. But I didn't have any ideas, and I was bored out of my mind, so I just scrapped it. Are you aware it's pronounced funk, not funky?
Leave me alone!
I mean, who spells their name like that and expects people to just assume that the E is silent? That ain't on me. How stressed were you guys making the game? How did you manage time? There wasn't really a specific method I used to manage my time, but basically what I did was I created a Trello, not sponsored, and made a list of tasks and categories to organize who was entrusted with what. My own tasks I would put on a Google Calendar, also not sponsored, to create goals of when I wanted things to be completed by. When they were done, I would delete the entries. Overall, I think that's a pretty decent workflow, and I personally recommend doing something similar. What were the hardest and easiest parts of developing Limbless? There weren't any particular hard parts per se, but there were definitely tedious and annoying parts, such as the GUI scaling system I mentioned in the previous devlog, watch that if you haven't, and the cutscenes. The way the cutscenes worked was I had to manually enter how much time passed between lines, and for some reason it got incredibly messy, since sometimes I would lose my place in the audio file. In that situation, I would just start adding and subtracting time until it looked like it matched. Definitely gotta clean up my code sometime soon. Oh, another annoying thing was that whenever I reloaded a map, I would have to redisable the walls I wanted to be invisible and reapply the custom shaders. What level editor did you use? I've been using Hammer for Gmod and it looks pretty similar. Good eye. The tool you saw is called Trench Broom, which is a map editor for the game Quake. The original Half-Life was actually built upon the Quake engine. The source engine, the engine used for Gmod, Half-Life, and Team Fortress 2, was built on the Half-Life engine. Trench Broom is a modern Quake map editor, so it is very likely it took inspiration from the design of Hammer. The way I was able to import the maps into Godot was using qodot. Yeah, that name definitely doesn't help with Google searches. There's several tutorials online on how to set up the workflow between the tools, but if you do try to set it up, I'd just like to note that I had to use the 2023.1 version, because newer versions wouldn't set up properly, but you may want to use an even older version, because I had a really annoying bug where the undo button would just stop working, and I'd need to restart Trench Broom to get it working again. What is your process for learning things about game development? The method I use to learn about the technical side of game development is to follow YouTube tutorials to recreate whatever feature they're coding, for example, player movement. When I'm done, I'll look through the code and figure out what does what. This will usually consist of changing random numbers and removing code just to see what happens. Sometimes I don't even need to do that at all, and I can just make sense of the code as it is. In terms of game design, I often learn by either watching other devlogs or just by playing games. Devlogs help, since I can pay attention to what they did and didn't do, what they kept and what they scrapped. Makes sense, but how does playing games help? Sounds a bit counterproductive, doesn't it? Well, when I play video games, I don't just play it, I study it. I keep close attention to how things were done and theorize how exactly it was achieved, or imagine how I would go about recreating it. If I really want to see what happens behind the scenes, I'll start modding the game. What are some resources you use to learn Godot? The resources I used the most were YouTube tutorials and the Godot documentation. The documentation may sound less helpful, since it can't give you exact step-by-step instructions on how to achieve something. But if that's how you think, then game development may not be for you. The Godot documentation is actually very user-friendly. The docs help a lot with syntax and formatting, though it also gives nice examples of code, like this section I've been reading on runtime file loading and saving. If that sounded like utter gibberish to you, basically I'm learning how to make easy-to-mod games. Does Breadman Otis juju on that beat? According to PiratePug, he would ask what that is and then fall over.
Juju on that beat.
Does Tempman juju on that beat?
Yo, Tempman. Jojo on that beat.
Was the mall song inspired by Alone in the Town from Silent Hill 2? For this, I asked the music maker themselves, Eldritchsaxes, to answer the question. This is a great question. First off, yes. La Plaza is indeed inspired by the song Alone in the Town, which appears in Silent Hill 2. I actually found some instruments that appeared in-game, and a Silent Hill sound font. that really helped out with trying to make it sound somewhat like Silent Hill, even with my usual style. Thanks for the question. It makes me happy to see someone recognize the Silent Hill influence in that song, especially since the games are major inspirations to me in terms of art and music. What roadblocks came up in the process? Well, I got sick not once, but twice while making Limbless, and a third time while writing this video. I hardly ever get sick, but for some reason, some power out there really doesn't like me and just decided to curse me with a reoccurring plague. In fact, if you listen to my first devlog, you'll notice I actually sound a bit more congested in the first half compared to the second. And well, that's because both portions were recorded on separate days. One where I was sick, and the other I had pretty much recovered. Anyways, besides that whole ordeal, there weren't very many roadblocks, though I would say that the initial planning and decision making for the game was a bit problematic. For example, there were several concepts we had for the starting village. The earliest version I can remember was that the game would start with the player waking up in a grassy, endless expanse. And well, you can see how far that evolved. What other games have you guys worked on? This is actually the first time most of us have worked on a released game. The only one who had was Eldritch. What are the white pixel creatures in Limbless called? I call them generics, though a very early design of them by PiratePug was called Scroodles. Is there any cut content from the game? Yes, there isn't very much, but there is some. Mostly audio. First, we have some hurt and attack sounds I had voiced for the Mr. Crimal fight.
Ooh. Ah. Ouch. Ah. Ooh. Ah. Hmm. Hiya. 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 Karate. Pow. Yeah. Oh, great heavens.
They were cut due to time constraints, but I have a feeling I'll be adding them in soon. The next clip was another line I had voiced. It was supposed to be spoken by a generic after leaving the internet zone.
Dude, stop looking at my laptop.
The initial plan was to have the player exit the laptop just as they had entered. There would have been a generic standing by the laptop ready to say the line. If the player attempted to interact with the generic afterwards, it would have said,
Weirdo.
Of course, this was scrapped since the player now enters the train directly from the internet. Similar to the scrapped generic line, there's a scrapped Violet line that would have played if you interacted with her a second time.
Sorry, still no opening.
This was scrapped due to time constraints, but will also probably be added at a later date. Gumless Steven was also supposed to have a theme song, made by PiratePugPants.
This is a certified hood classic.
The final piece of scrapped audio was never planned to be added, but ImSpooky and I thought it would be funny to add it to the files for anyone who dared look through them.
Xbox Live!
The last scrapped content is very minor, but I'll show it anyways. In the underwater temple, attached to the pedestal with the limb was a giant box with text reading, "Security system, requires radioactive material to be powered," with the status of offline. This was to reference the fact that the radioactive material you had spilled served as the power source of the temple, and with it being dumped, any security system there would have been would be inactive. But I removed it because I was worried players would think they needed to turn it back online to grab the limb. It can still be found out of bounds, however, along with some random paintings. How did you create the characters? Since all the characters were so different in style, they all had different methods of creation. Otis was modeled using Blockbench, which is a tool often used for creating models for Minecraft, though it works great for general low-poly modeling. Mr. Crimal was drawn using a web browser-based pixel art tool called Piskel. Same goes for the generics. Violet and Chumly were drawn using Pages on my iPad through the drawing element. Gumless Steven was created physically by PiratePugPants using a wooden lay figure as a base. Pug has a short video on his channel where he shows some of the process of making Steven, so if you have a minute to spare, I'll have that in the description, or in the top right corner of this video. Did you get permission from the creator of Ina to make Limbless? Since Limbless is not directly related to Ina and is only inspired, I didn't need to ask for any permissions. However, I definitely used Ina a lot to advertise the game, so... Hey JoelG, if you're watching this, please don't hurt me. How did you guys push through making something in such a short amount of time? When I start a project, I usually get off track, start another project, and leave it unfinished. I have that problem with most projects too. I think having a deadline definitely helped me get motivation. That and the fact that one of the jams was ranked, so if I did good, I would feel good too. I don't think I would have finished if it weren't for these conditions. How can people support you? I don't really have any form of direct support. I suppose the only real way is to tell people about the game, about this channel, or subscribe. Doing these will help more people find me, and the more people who find me, the better my odds increase of creating any form of a career by making games and videos. Are you planning on expanding Limbless in the future, or is it completed? I do plan to make small tweaks to Limbless, and maybe add some quality of life features, but I plan to leave it the same for a while. I have thought of releasing a remake somewhere down the line when I have more experience, though that probably won't be for a while. Until then, I'll just be making new projects. Do you want to keep making games inspired by the Ina series, or different kinds of games? I do actually plan on making another Ina-inspired game later down the line, completely separate from Limbless. It'll be a lot longer in length and higher in quality, but that also won't be started until much later, and my projects for now will be vastly different from Ina and Limbless. Last question. Any other game ideas you got cooking? It may be a bit before I go back to game development. I kinda want to work on smaller projects for the time being. For example, mods. I've always loved modding games, making them my own. And if it's possible, my next project will be just that. Now you may be wondering, what do you mean by if it's possible? Okay, so I originally recorded this video in one take back in August, and since then this section of the video has become outdated, so I'm just gonna hastily correct myself. Basically, I was gonna talk about how I wanted to mod a weird game called Garn47, and how I found it strange that the creator didn't want people to mod it. They still don't want the game to be modded, but they have released a small project file for one of the boss fights, and a couple weeks later, they permitted modding for it. This action alone invalidated about half of this section. I was also going to talk about the idea of recreating Garn47 in the Godot game engine, and making it more moddable, so the less tech-savvy members of the community could try their hand at making experiences in the Garn47 world. Of course, before I can do that, I would still need to ask the creator for permission. Even if I did have permission, I probably wouldn't start this idea for a long time, if ever, since as I mentioned before, I want to take a break from game dev. Plus, recreating a game isn't as fun as making my own. Alright, back to the video. So, in that case, then what happens next? I'll probably just mod a different game. Maybe Baldi's Basics or Minecraft. Those could be fun. Another plan I have to make is some sort of RPG engine in Godot. Something akin to Undertale, Mother/Earthbound, games like that. The engine will be incredibly easy to use, and should require little game development skills. Can't promise it will happen though, could end up just being an idea and nothing more. If you have an idea for a project, whether it be mods, games, or even tools and utilities, comment what you have in mind. Now, outside of game development, what will I be doing? I don't want to be doing purely game development and modding on this channel, since stuff like that can be time consuming, and making videos about my projects will be too. So, between projects, I will be making gaming content. Most of this gaming content will be videos of me playing with friends, or playing a game with friends spectating. The content may be different from the usual game dev stuff, but I think our commentary will be more than enough to tune in. If you came for the weirdness of Ina and Limbless, then lucky for you. One of my gameplay videos may just be on Yume Nikki, which is a game that I myself don't understand, but this guy makes pretty cool animations. Other than that, all I know is the game is very weird, Undertale inspired it, and people like it. So that's enough reasons for me to give it a shot. Other games you may see me play are Team Fortress 2 and maybe some Minecraft on the side. In conclusion, plenty to be excited for. I am terribly ill. Hey, welcome to the end of the video. Before you go, remember to check out Eldritchsaxes for their music and art. And remember to check out the creation process of Otis and Steven on Pug's channel. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you don't have to wait another 4 months for the next one. Also, thank you for 363 subscribers. It means a lot to me. Oh, by the way, there's some stuff I had to cut from this video, since this video was getting way too long. If your question wasn't answered, then it might be in this video on screen. It should appear right now. If it doesn't, then you may have to wait a little longer. As of recording this, that video doesn't exist yet, but I should have it within the next week of releasing this. The video will be unlisted, so I'll announce it in a community post on my channel. Stay tuned for that. I don't really know how to end this video.